Good afternoon. This is the Vance Center, and we have an interesting guest today. And we'll start from the beginning, from the standpoint of introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Brother Vance. It's a privilege to be here at the Vance Center. My name is Tyree, Tyree Wallace, Wallace. I am the CEO and founder of Systemic Reformative Change Foundation, which is short as SRC. It's a 501c3 and 501c4 nonprofit organization.
Right. And what inspired you to start that organization?
Well, I have a very unique backstory. I spent 26 and a half years incarcerated for a crime in which I had absolutely no involvement. The evidence of my innocence is clear, overwhelming, and incontrovertible, so it's not a question of whether I committed a crime or not. The courts have admitted and acknowledged that I didn't commit the crime. We've had alibi testimony, eyewitness testimony, court-qualified polygraph examination. The person that killed Mr. Young King acknowledged that he did him and didn't know that he killed it and didn't know who I was. So on and on and on, and there's a whole host of other things that acknowledge that. The thing is, our criminal justice system has known for 27 years that I didn't commit a crime.
Okay.
And they were perfectly willing to allow me to die in prison for something that they know I didn't do. So I understand that it is counterintuitive to how many of us have been conditioned to believe about the criminal justice system. Being innocent is not a reason to get out of prison, right?
Right.
So what I had to do from a prison cell was create a movement that would bring enough attention to shame the courts into doing what they were supposed to do anyway.
Right.
So I was able to do that. I was able, with the help of a lot of my good friends, with a lot of people who support, attorneys like David Perry, families like the Barkans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We were able to start a movement that forced these people to let me go. So we created, we got over 10,000 people to sign up the change.org petition, demanding to get me out. We had college students every week dropping off 100 petitions to Larry Krasner's office so they could feel it. We were rallying outside. We had people rallying outside of City Hall. We had a digital truck riding around City Hall singing "Free Tyree Wallace." We created this whole movement. And what I told them is, if you all are going to acknowledge that I didn't commit the crime and keep me in prison, you're going to have to do that in front of the whole world. So what happened is the district attorney's team wound up coming to my team behind closed doors and said, listen, we don't want to know what y'all want to do next. Please stop. We're letting him go.
And when did that happen?
I was let go on November 4th. That happened November 1st. That happened November 1st when they came to my team and said, we're letting him go in the next couple of days. Just please stop.
Was that this year or last year?
Last year. So last year. So a little more than 9 months ago.
Okay.
A little more than 9 months ago.
And as a result of that, since that period of time, you were inspired from that particular incident that happened, and what happened?
So what took place is I saw that my freedom was on the precipice. A good friend of mine here, Juan Carlos, was incarcerated with me at that time. And I saw that I was about to be getting liberated, but everybody that I cared about in the world was still in prison. You have men 60, 70, 80 years old suffering from all types. If you do long-term incarceration, 20, 30, 40 years, you are in shambles as a person, physically. I mean, 99% of the time. Because you can't get quality health care, you can't get good food, you can't get preventative care, you can't get good rest, everything is stressful. Like, it's a terrible thing. And these are people who I'm leaving and I'm caring about. It's people, my old cellie, Keith Andrews, has a life sentence. They had sentenced him to die in prison for something he did not do.
Right.
And if I don't coalesce and put some power together, he's going to die in prison. So what I decided to do while I was still in prison was found a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was designed to coalesce power. Right. So we think about it, in Pennsylvania alone, there's over 30,000 people currently incarcerated. Each one of those people has a circle of influence. So when I was in prison, I could influence tens of thousands of people.
Right.
You have some people that can influence 3 people, 4 people. You have some people that have 100 people they can call. So what we're doing is we're creating a vessel for where we mobilize the prisons to utilize their circle of influence to create political power.
Okay.
To create political power, so we have a direct line for what that looks like, and that's the phase that we're going in. And that was all created about I didn't want to leave the men and women behind who don't deserve to be in prison. Now I'm gonna keep it a bit. I'm gonna keep it. We need a civil society.
Right.
We need a society where people are not committing crimes. We need a society where our women are safe. We need a society where the communities are clean. But what the DOC is doing is not helping to facilitate that at all. What they are doing is creating, forging, and intentionally creating and forging damaging people, releasing them to our communities and restricting them there. You can't even go nowhere else. They're going to put them in our communities after they damage them intentionally.
Right.
And then leave them in our communities and wonder why things are going haywire.
Right.
You know what I mean? That is what the DOC is doing consistently, and SRC, the movement that we're putting together, is designed to combat that directly.
So that was your motivation from the standpoint of starting your 501c3.
Absolutely.
Okay. And where are you now as far as the organization is concerned?
I have to be totally honest, man. Like, we are absolutely thriving. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna just be blunt about it. You know, over the last 9 months, we've raised over $400,000. We have a really good team. I really just downsized my team, so now that we are lean. We are lean now, but we are really really moving in the right direction.
And where are you located?
So we have our initial physical office, and which will always be our initial physical office, is 1102 DeKalb in Norristown, PA. And I owe a sincere debt of gratitude to Norristown. Okay. Coming out of prison after all the time that I had, this place welcomed our movement here. Norristown welcomed our movement here, and as a result of that, no matter what else is available in other places, we will always and continue to have some sort of presence here. So we're currently located at 1102 DeKalb. We're about to open up another office on the boardwalk in Atlantic City.
Okay.
And I'm over the top excited about that because of the momentum we'll be able to bring in with membership. So just being able to have access to that many people who are there for the purpose of being engaged, being involved, as opposed to, you know how Norristown can be at times. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's literally pulling teeth to get anybody to do anything, right? They're worth it, so I'm not knocking it. It's not a complaint, but all I'm just saying is the difference in having to make people being involved where people are there to be involved. You know what I mean? So,
you know, with what all the things that you've been through, how do you maintain your focus and your sanity and your willingness to work as hard as you're working?
So I'm gonna be honest, it's not easy. I'm struggling in more ways than I thought that I was. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to relationships that exist outside of prison. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm struggling there a little bit. However, my team, man, like I just got good people around me, and I'm determined to keep good people around me who hold me to account, who push me, who support me, who, you know what I mean, who give it to me, raw. You know, and the reality is a big part of who I am has nothing to do with me. I think about, you know, I'll say this in multiple interviews, so forgive the repetitiveness if someone else hears this, but within me flows the DNA of my grandmother. And my grandmother was, in America at that time, maybe at best a fourth-class citizen. You know, white men, white women, black men, then her. You know what I mean? At best, you know what I mean? It was probably a little lower than that. In spite of that, she had 7 kids, took care of the entire family, was an NTA, responsible for security at school, ran the free lunch program, was the block captain. She did all these different things.
Right.
Even though she was facing the oppression of a black woman in the early 1900s in this country.
Right.
So that flows through me, right? My father was deeply embedded in community improvement. Anybody who knows me, I'm his son.
Okay.
Period. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm his son. So a lot of that has nothing to do with me. And the final piece that I want to make sure is that there's an entire culture in prison that exists that people are unaware of.
And what do you mean by that?
So everything that happens inside of state prisons is done by prisoners. Everything. If the electric goes out, it's prisoners that come and fix it. If the pipe busts, it's prisoners that come to fix it. The food is cooked by prisoners. The block is cleaned by prisoners. Everything is done by prisoners, including there's a culture of doing it for each other, of sticking together. So I was a hospice volunteer at SDI Phoenix because my mentors, when I came there, were hospice volunteers. Right? Juan and I started a group called Big Bro, building individual greatness by redirecting ourselves because the prison came to us and said, we don't know what to do with these young guys. We need your help. So there's this whole culture. If you go to the law library, it's run by prisoners. Everything is done by prisoners. So you have a choice. You can either be an active participant in all the foolishness that's happening,
Okay.
of which there's plenty. You can be a part of that all you want. Or you could choose this other pathway of organization, of groups, of education, of uplifting each other. And I'm telling you, the way it exists in prison is unlike anything else, which is why you see a bunch of us who come out after 20-something years, we're like relics of people. They don't even understand people our age opening the door for women.
Right.
They don't even understand why we care about cleaning the community up. I had to check a bunch of grown men the other day. I said, how many of y'all here from this block? It was about 20 of them here from one block. I said, well, how is this block in this condition when you got 20-something men on the block? How does that even, it's my community, my responsibility.
Right.
How do all of these men come off the block every day with the block looking like that? And do nothing about it.
Right.
So, we are, this is what we bring to the table. Men of integrity, men of character, men of substance, willing to put it on the line for the community.
What would you attribute your thoughts and your actions now, okay, in terms of your past and so forth? What would you point to say, that really made a change in you?
That's a good question. I know the direct answer. I know the direct answer. It's a bit of a story. I'll try to break it down. You know what I mean? I'll try to break it down. So again, I told you that a lot of this stuff is in my DNA, like from who I was raised around. So there's that. With that being said, I was drowning out the voice of God every day as a young black man sitting on the corner. Like, that voice, when you really do something that you're not supposed to do and you hear that voice and you ignore it, that's drowning out the voice of God. That's your connection to that force telling you, yo, what are you doing? Don't do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we become good at drowning that out. And that's the space that I was in. So I remember in April 28th of 2008, I was at STI Huntington. I had a seizure. I was watching the Sixers game. I remember I was watching the Sixers game. I had a seizure, went out, burnt my head and face really badly on the radiators located in our cell. Had 2nd and 3rd degree burns to my face and head. You know what I mean? So as a result, there's a bunch of scarring and things that exist to this day. Hair doesn't grow in places, all types of stuff, right? I wake up in the hospital 6 hours away with doctors all around me debating whether they was gonna cut my nose off or not, because my nose was that bad. So I woke up fighting, don't cut my fucking nose off. like, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, all right, Mr. Wallace. I'm like, no, don't cut my nose off. I mean, I would have literally been here without a nose. I woke up maybe the next day in a hospital bed with 2 COs sitting next to me.
Okay.
And the one CO looked at me in the face and was just like, oh my God, baby, like, what you want to watch? And this is giving me, so you gotta understand, I'm telling you, I'm tore out the frame. So this skin was gone. This is skin from behind here. This is skin from behind here. All of this was burnt up. Like, I had to have plastic surgery 6 times.
Okay.
In order to be at the point where I am now. You know what I mean? Just, you know what I mean? Just not tore out the frame. So when that happens, I wake up and this guard is in there, and I remember Barack Obama was running for presidency his first time.
Right.
So as soon as she handed me the remote, the first thing I did was turn to CNN. And she's like, this what you want to watch? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So she and I started talking about politics and the value of black family, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. I get up, I look in the mirror, and I couldn't believe what I looked like.
Right.
I was an absolute monster. And I remember thinking clearly, I have been in prison for damn near 20 years for something I didn't do. I now look like a monster. They got me charged as a monster. They're about to see a monster now. And based off of who I am as a human being, I don't even know what that meant. But I was dead serious about it, right? But I was dead serious about it, and I don't even really know what that would have looked like because, even certain things are in you or they're not, right?
Right.
But I continued talking to this sister, and we talked for hours and hours and hours and hours. And she wound up leaving. Her shift landed. I went back to my jail, came back to SCI Pittsburgh maybe 2-3 days later. Now, I was in central Pennsylvania where the prisons, where the relationships with the guards are very adversarial.
Right.
You can get charged. It's literally a charge called reckless eyeballing. That if you look at a guard for too long, they'll lock you up for looking at them. It's called reckless eyeballing. That's how adversarial the relationships can be in those prisons.
Right.
Now, in the black prisons like Gradisford and Pittsburgh, it's a bunch of black people working there. So when they see us, they're not threatened by us. Gesticulating doesn't threaten them. All this type of stuff. They're not worried about that. They're not worried about those type of things. So, but when I go to Pittsburgh jail, I hadn't seen this girl again. She runs to me, and just runs and hugs me. And then she hugged me. I'm just standing there like this, like yo, what the hell is going on? I hadn't experienced this type of interaction with a guard in a prison because it's a total different jail. But she's like, I told my mom about you. I can't stop thinking about you. This, that, and the third. And I'm sitting there thinking that if this woman who is dynamic, beautiful, successful, all these different things, if she could value what I thought, who I was, and my trajectory, and could look past the fact that my face is burnt off and I'm a prisoner with a life sentence, I said that I'm a fully develop that man. I'm a fully develop that human being, because if she can see that spark and be willing to go all in that situation,
right?
I mean, I gotta see what this guy is about. You know what I mean? I gotta see what this guy is about, and it was that was a tipping point for me. That was a fork in the road where I looked in the mirror and I said, "They're about to get a monster," and I was right. But they're about to get a monster who understands these systems, who understands how to coalesce people, who understands how to generate money, who understands how to manipulate press, who understands how to do all these type of things. And manipulate wasn't the right word, but what I'm talking about is utilizing it for our benefit as opposed to it always being utilized against us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was right. They are going to get a monster. I just didn't know what that meant at the time.
Right. How do you feel about all this now that you look back on all this?
So most of the time I don't think about it. But when I do, I'm highly angry. I'm highly angry, and I'm going to do something about it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to just sit around and stew in my anger.
Right.
They took my entire life.
Right.
My entire 20s, incarcerated. My entire 30s, incarcerated. From 40 to 47, incarcerated. And have still received no justice as a result of it. They've acknowledged privately that I didn't do it. They still haven't said it out loud.
Right.
So this coalescing of power is not only for the community, but it's also for my personal justice. There's no doubt about it. Right. But it's also for justice for other people who are locked up and similarly situated. But I know personally 4 people who didn't commit the crime that they're there for.
Right.
And they're going to die in prison unless we do something about it. Right. You know what I mean? I know them personally. There's a guy who just lived on the block with me who has a DNA test, scientific proof that he couldn't have committed the crime, and he can't get a new trial.
Right.
Because being innocent is not a reason to get out of prison.
Has this caused you animosity from the standpoint of moving forward?
No. It's so when it comes to anger, I don't believe that anger in and of itself is a negative emotion. It's just an emotion. What we do with that emotion is a determining factor of whether it's negative or not. So some of the most motivating and best things that have happened in the history of this world happened because people were angry.
Right.
Women's suffrage movement. Women were angry about their treatment. The civil rights movement. Black people were angry about their treatment. All of these things, some of the best things that have happened, people were angry and acted. So I take that anger and I turn it into purpose.
In terms of leadership, how do you feel about leadership now?
So there's a paucity of black men leading, man. There's a paucity of black men willing to do what it takes to say what needs to be said, to look dead in the camera and say something that they know is going to be unpopular.
Right.
So many men are scared right now. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I understand, so I understand why so many of these young bulls don't respect the people that's ahead of them.
Well, one of the things we try to advocate here at the Vance Center is excellence. And we start with youth and try to build excellence within themselves and character and things of that nature. What would you say to the youth in terms of building excellence and moving forward in the communities such as Norristown?
Love it. I think that there's multiple things I would like to say. Striving for excellence is the right way to go. You always want to be better on Wednesday than you were on Tuesday. I would like young people to understand that their focus should be what type of people do they want to be? What type of man, young man or woman do you want to be 5 years from now? And the reason why that's important is because you want to not get caught up on everyday goals that could be frustrating. So think about it. If I decide that I want to be a healthy person, which is something I decided since I've been home, I make changes within my diet every day that may not show up within a week. But after 9 months home, I'm 30 pounds lighter. You know, my clothes fit well. Right. All of my blood work is right. It's because I focused on trajectory. I want to be a healthy person. Not that I wanted to lose weight.
Right.
Being healthy got me to lose weight. So if you're thinking about the fact I want to be a successful person,
right,
then you would feel like, what do successful people do? Successful people get up at a certain time. Successful people work at a certain time. So successful people do that. You follow those habits and you're worried about what type of person you want to be as opposed to what happens right now. And the final thing is do not let people tell you what you're capable of. People will shoot your dreams down.
Yes.
If you are passionate about it and you're willing to work hard to get it and to learn about it, there's no excuse not to have the information.
Right.
Today, it's all right here. Anything you want to know about anything, literally right here. There's no excuse to not know it. And once you do know it, don't let anybody deter you from doing what you know to be right.
Right. My brother, who passed away, he's 4 years older than I am. Okay. He was 4 years older than I am. He had a good saying. He said, "Don't make no plans for me," and that's on his tombstone.
I like that.
And I told my niece, I said, she asked me, should I put that on my father's tombstone? I said, well, he used to say that all the time. And I think what you're elaborating on in terms of what you just talked about, in terms of people not making plans for you. You make your own plans.
100%.
Okay. And I would stress that to any young people who are coming along now. In terms of education, in terms of your actions and things of that nature, because if you don't have a plan, your own plan,
right?
Okay, nobody can make that plan for you. I think you'll agree with me after all those years that you spent behind closed doors.
Yes.
In terms of that.
Yes.
Myself, I've been involved in law enforcement for, well, now 61 years.
Wow.
Okay, I was the chief county detective here in Montgomery County for 48 years, and I was the chief for 30 years of that period of time. So I know what you're talking about when you say, people being incarcerated and in terms of things that they may not have done. Okay, and you do have some people who are obnoxious from the standpoint of not following through with evidence, like you said, factual evidence, witnesses, and things of that nature, regardless of what the crime might be. So I think that's important in terms of what you talked about, and you're a victim of that, being accused of something that you did not do.
100%. And the reality is that is a bad part. The worst part is that this entity, the Department of Corrections, has a failure rate that is over 50-something%. It's over 52%. Right. So it's their job to bring people in and to rehabilitate them. They are intentionally doing that wrong. They are doing the polar opposite of that. but then they're shipping them all over to Pennsylvania communities everywhere, and charging the Pennsylvania taxpayers $3 billion a year.
So basically,
Could be a
what you're
failure.
saying is that incarceration is not, that's not necessarily the answer to everything pertaining to people who may have done something in their past, and then serving time does not correct.
So serving the correct time does help. So the bad part, the really bad part about it is the Department of Corrections. They know what works. They have scientific data points that they've released on their own on who recidivates and who doesn't.
Right.
What we have to do in order to make them not do that, and what we shouldn't do. They released it. It's on the DOC website. They won't implement their own stuff.
Right.
We have people like myself trying to fight to make the DOC better and to uplift people and to bring violence down. They'll actively fight against that. If you had Oscar Vance trying to come in to help people learn how to do a podcast, to do all these different types of things, or to bring them into security or whatever it is that you wanted to do, they will fight you from coming in. They don't want people coming in doing the right things and helping to uplift people. It is literally in your face that they want to make worse people, and that they're doing it and then putting them in our communities. So I don't like to guess the operation of anybody's mind, right? I don't like to say that, but this is what the reality is. If you truly believe that this system that you have working was the right way, when do you go to Plan B? After 10 years, the 20 years, the 30 years, the 40 years, where the recidivism rate is going up.
Right.
The crimes are getting worse and worse. People are getting killed more. Right. When do you go to Plan B?
Right.
You don't when it's operating in the way that it's supposed to operate.
Right.
Keeping our jails full of brown and black people.
So in terms of that, like your legacy itself, what do you want to leave behind?
So I'm obsessed with building systems, with understanding systems, with building them, with figuring out how they work, and then figuring out how I can utilize them to benefit the people that I care about. People in prison, formerly incarcerated, in the communities in which I'm involved in. So understanding that, I just want to make sure that when I'm ready to just go kick my feet up on the beach, right, that there are systems in place that are just consistently and in perpetuity helping people. So it's consistently coalescing people, it's consistently calling people to impact, it's consistently bringing people to the voting booth, it's consistently partnering corporations with community. So these corporations that are benefiting off our community put money back into our communities. I'm huge about that. One of the things that a lot of people are not going to like about me once they realize it is that I'm really into wealth transference. I'm being dead serious. I have grabbed $400,000 from different communities and put it into the black community.
Right.
Already in 9 months. That is a fact. Like, you know what I mean? That is a fact, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to raise significant amounts of money and put it in the hands of people that I care about.
That's true. It sounds like you're doing things that are very effective in the community, more so than some people who've been here for quite some time and who are in responsible positions to get things done.
I agree.
Looking at the town of Norristown, did you know about Norristown before you were incarcerated?
I didn't. Had never even heard of Norristown. And the reality is I was pulled here, though. I was pulled here. I made a bunch of different connections in Montgomery County in particular. Two of the guys who were my first street captains, which are guys who were formerly incarcerated, who went through a program that we developed in there and who then came home to take care of the community. They were both tied to Norristown.
Okay.
And as they were running the street captain initiative for me while I was still incarcerated, Norristown just became the absolute option. It just did. So it had a lot of unique things. It wasn't as violent as Philadelphia. It had a depressed community. It had, I genuinely believe that the energy that we brought here, that people would be going crazy about SRC. This is a unique place. Like this is a very, very unique place. I'm talking about, we'll put $10,000 into a free event for everybody and have to beg people to come.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Montgomery County itself is a very, very unique county from the standpoint that at one time, not too long ago, Montgomery County was the richest county in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
We're now number 2. I understand that Chester County is a lot more wealthier now. But you have a lot of influential people, corporations, institutions that are right here in Montgomery County. And when you look at Montgomery County from the standpoint of where we are now, where we were, say, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, things haven't changed too much from the standpoint of moving in an advanced way, okay, in terms of getting things done, being not only wealthy in terms of money, but also in communities, character, in terms of people and places and things of that nature. Things haven't changed too much here in Montgomery County, okay? And I'm speaking from the law enforcement standpoint on the other side of being out there doing investigations and things of that nature. So things have gotten sort of complacent, I would say.
I agree.
Okay, not only in the community, but also in the individuals that are in the community from the standpoint of those who are in power and those who are struggling on a day-to-day situation in terms of just trying to make it.
I agree.
So I think that attitudes have changed on both sides that way. And I think a lot more can be done. And I think just the fact that you and I are sitting here talking about that, me being on the other side from the standpoint of investigations and so forth, I know the importance of being exact and being precise in terms of your evidence, regardless of what type of crime.
So that's really good. Have you ever read an article called "Tarnished Brass"? It's in the USA Today, and this article is about 10 years old. At the time, there were over 85,000 police officers who had been decertified, meaning that they were found to be so corrupt that they could no longer be police officers. But in order to keep their pensions in play, and in order to keep their dignity and their name and keep them out of prison, they were able to be decertified as opposed to arrested, tried, convicted, publicly shamed. This is 85,000 people at that time, police officers, for domestic violence, for murder, for rape, for all of the things. They can't be police officers, but they're now campus cops somewhere. They're rent-a-guards at the mall and all this type of stuff. So they still had this law enforcement capability. I say that to say, coming from an officer who clearly moved with morality, decency, and integrity, you're talking about mistakes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about intentional corruption.
Yes.
Intentional planting of evidence, beating people, framing, all the things that they've been doing. You think about Larry Krasner is responsible for pulling officers off the force like Nordo that was raping people into confessions. That was literally physically raping people to confessing the murders that they didn't do. You know what I mean? Like, that's the level of what I'm talking about. What was existing in a lot of these places. Not what you're talking about is that's you just want to be the best police officer that you can be. You want to make sure. No, I'm talking about the polar opposite of that.
Absolutely. And I've been in, like I said, I've been in law enforcement a long time, and there are good and bad in everything. Okay, there are people who apply the law and apply the rules and regulations, and there's people who disregard everything.
Do you realize that the Southern Poverty Law Center said that police, correctional officers in the military has been adroitly infiltrated by white supremacists? Like that they have targeted those specific jobs so they can have the ability to police our communities with protection. This is the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's not my opinion. This is what they say, that it's been adroitly infiltrated by white supremacist movements.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's a problem because the reality is, if there's a white man here who's a racist or don't like me individual, he has zero impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a judge, when you're a police officer, when you decide whether I get a loan or not,
Right.
that's when it's a problem. And they have been smart enough to infiltrate these systems.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that this stuff is happening for intentional.
Well, you need in this society, you need more conversation like you and I are having.
I agree.
You need people who are speaking out from the standpoint of honesty
Yes.
and excellence.
Yes.
Like I said, and there's no room for corruption anywhere.
I agree.
Okay, whether you're a judge, or whether you're a police officer, or just a citizen trying to work on a day-to-day basis, there is no room either way,
Absolutely.
and there's only one way. In terms of your legacy, and in terms of a conclusion, in terms of what we were talking about today, what is your recommendation to these young people who are out here today, irregardless of whether they're in prison, out of prison, or just a day-to-day operation of living? What is your assessment of all that?
Well, the reality is there is no magic bullet to cure all of the things that a lot of our young people are dealing with. I've met young people who their parents put them out on the corner to sell drugs when they were young. I met people who's never known their father. I know young people right now who don't know where they're going to live tomorrow. So there is no magic bullet to answer all that.
Right.
What I can say is to believe in your potential, is to understand that if you match what you do naturally, if you take what you would do for free because you love doing it and you match that with education, it'll show you your direction. Your direction will light up like a neon sign. What you do naturally. I naturally love to help people. I feel good when I'm out in the community helping people.
Right.
I've matched that with the education with how nonprofits work. How do you make money off of that? How do you I've educated, and it pointed me to SRC.
Right.
It's the same thing for anybody. What you do naturally, match that with education, it'll show you the direction. Work hard, do the right thing every day. Living life the right way every day will get you to the place where you want to be. It's not going to be easy. Nothing worthwhile is easy. But the alternative is winding up in jail for 26 years for something you didn't do. The alternative is in a hospital. The alternative is being a bum on a corner, bro.
Sure.
None of those alternatives are worth not doing the hard work that it takes
Right.
to be a good man.
And to just enlighten you in terms of families, even in my family, I have a nephew, okay, who spent 25 years in prison.
Wow.
Okay,
Mm.
wasn't murder either.
Mm.
It was for stuff that he did. You know, you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And he is now driving a truck, works for FedEx,
Yeah.
and he turned his life around. I believe that he's doing okay, but it's all within the person themselves, as you just said.
I agree.
And if a person wants to turn themselves around and they want to be in the area of excellence as far as living is concerned, they can do it.
Mm.
And I'm a firm believer in that.
I agree.
And as far as law enforcement is concerned, I've always been on the side of believing that if I can help somebody, then my living is not in vain.
I agree.
Okay, and I believe in that. And just because a person goes into prison, regardless of what they did or didn't do, does not make them a bad person.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree.
And they can turn themselves around. So so what you're doing and what you're doing today, and your beliefs and the way you're living today, is a good inspiration to all these young people who are out here who may not be living the way they should be living. Okay, And the advice that you're giving to them, I think, is excellent. That's excellence.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Yeah, I would like to say, if you don't mind, people could go to srcnow.org. That is our website. Please register to be a member of SRC. We are moving this collective power in a direction of forcing change, but also there are a bunch of perks for becoming an SRC member. It's totally free to become an SRC member. Please sign up on our website. That's at srcnow.org. I ask for you to support SRC kids, and just thank you for your time and your attention.
Okay, and I want to thank you for being here today, and I'm gonna offer you a something through the Vance Center. I'm going to ask you to be a part of the Vance Center.
Okay.
From the standpoint of my board.
Okay.
Okay. In terms of that, I think that you would be an asset to us.
Okay.
I think that you could help us from the standpoint of your story that you have and so forth, your life story, your legacy, to help some of the young people who are here today trying to make it. And just because an individual is one side of the law does not mean that they are completely an outcast just because they serve time or whatever.
I agree.
And I think that people can change their lives around regardless of whatever the situation might be.
100%.
And just because a person is carrying a badge does not make them holier than others.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had the misfortune of having to arrest individuals who did carry a badge for murder.
Wow.
Okay, several times.
Mm.
All right, so all is not well in jail or out. Okay, and people have a long way to go from the standpoint of bringing things together so that we can make this a better place to live, especially right here in Norristown.
I agree.
And we're supposed to be what they call the county seat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is supposed to be the area that should be an example for all people. But there's a lot to be done. So welcome here. And it was great meeting you.
You also.
Okay.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.